And we begin this hour with some breaking news in the doomsday couple case, the case against so-called doomsday prophet Chad Daybell. His murder trial, big ruling by the judge. The venue has been changed. Take a look. Here's the ruling from the judge. Both the reporting of the religious aspect of the case in conjunction with the exhibits indicating that a letter was circulated within Fremont County to potential jurors further raises the court's concerns in this case regarding the probability of finding fair and impartial jurors for trial. Compounding things, the case has convoluted facts. I agree with you there, Your Honor, that have likely caused many potential jurors to look further into the case than would be typical to understand what is alleged to have occurred. The coverage of this case has gone to the point where the court believes that many prospective jurors would be subtly conditioned to accept a certain version of facts at trial. While considerations of cost, efficiency, and inconvenience weigh against moving a lengthy trial out of the original county of venue, those concerns cannot outweigh the constitutional right of a defendant to be afforded a fair trial before an impartial jury. Big ruling. So where is it going? Well, it's going from Fremont County, which is in eastern Idaho, to Ada County, which is in western Idaho. And the further west you go, the closer you get to states like, I don't know, California. Ada County is where Boise is. It's one of the most populated areas in all of Idaho, and you got a lot of transplants there. From my perspective, completely different than Fremont County. Fremont County is the transplants you have there are people coming from like Salt Lake City, very conservative, very Mormon, very much like everyone involved in this trial. Ada County, much different. It's Boise. It's as metropolitan as you can get in the state of Idaho. And as I said, a lot of people have moved there recently. Housing prices through the roof there. It's like a hip, cool place to move to. And that's who will be hearing the case against doomsday prophet Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Daybell if and when she is deemed competent to stand trial. All right, so what exactly does all this mean? Is this a huge victory for the defense? Let's bring in the think tank. Joining us tonight in New York, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernarda Villalona. In Houston, Texas, criminal defense attorney Brian Weiss. And in San Diego, California, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Brian Watkins, who can be contacted at brianwatkinslaw.com. Welcome, everyone. Who wins? Who's the winner here? Is there a winner, Bernarda?
And it's going to be hard to tell because actually both sides are going to be disadvantaged in the sense of that they are not familiar with that jury pool. So remember, you have an advantage when you're from that county and you know the layout of that county and the different views of the different prospective jurors in that county. Now you're moving it far west where neither of these attorneys are familiar with the layout, familiar with the views of these jurors or how they will be able to make a determination in this case or where they stand. So I think both sides are at a disadvantage. Let's see what happens.
Brian Weiss, have you been to Boise?
I think I've seen it on TV even, but I don't think I've actually been there in real life.
So who wins here? I mean, my take on Boise is it's definitely more liberal than Fremont County. How liberal, I don't know. But if there's enough California transplants there, I mean, you could have a real a left-leaning jury. But does a left-leaning jury help you here or hurt you here?
Well, Vin, I think the main thing is if you've got a case of this magnitude, and by the way, before I forget, major props to the trial judge for name-checking Court TV a couple of times in the body of the ruling. I thought that is topical to today's headlines. Thank you. But in a case like this, with these egregious, horrendous facts, my take as a criminal defense attorney is this. The further away you can get from the courthouse steps, the further away you can get from the scene of the alleged incident, and the further away you can get from local media, the better off you are. And there's that geographical distance that now I think will insulate the defense far more in Ada County. As you said, Vin, in the metropolitan area, where you're going to get a greater cross-section of jurors, and maybe that translates into reasonable doubt. But again, my favorite word in the English language is you never know. Well, I guess you never know.
Brian Watkins, here's my take on it, and you know, maybe right, maybe wrong. I mean, we all have a take on this, is that I think this is a win for prosecutors, because if you stayed in Fremont County, you know a lot of jurors would have been eliminated because they knew about the case and they had formed opinions and their opinions wouldn't change and they were dug in. But eventually you would end up with 12 people. And I call them the leftovers, you know, and those leftovers usually serve up more not guilties than standard jurors do, because these are people who like, oh yeah, either they're outliers in society that they don't know about the case, or despite hearing all of this stuff are still like, yeah, that's fine, I'm ready to go.
You know, I agree with you, you know, in that aspect, but I got to say it's a win for the defense here, because when you have something happen in your backyard, it's more likely that you're interested in it. And more people in that county are going to be looking at the news, finding out what happened. And all the news ever says is, Lori Daybell, who's that? Oh, that's the person that killed so-and-so, and her husband killed so-and-so. And so all they are the people who killed so-and-so. And as you get interested in it, because it happened in your backyard, you look at it, and all you're looking at news articles, and all the news articles say is, these are the people that did it, these are the people that did it. So if you move them away from there and get some more disinterested people who've never looked into it, I think it's a win for the defense, because, like I said, the people in Fremont County have all been indoctrinated that these are the people that are the crazies that killed their own kids and think that doomsday is coming, and that's who they are, and it'll be very tough to indoctrinate them.
You know, you might move me a little bit closer to your position, and because of one thing you said, is that folks in Boise might not know the facts so well, and it takes a while to really understand all of this. And that's going to be a challenge for prosecutors to explain, as the judge described them, the convoluted facts of this case. So if you have jurors who know nothing about it or very little about it or just a headline or two, as a prosecutor, you now have a bigger challenge to explain all this insanity that took place. So if there's any folks watching in Boise tonight, let's get them up to speed. Let's start with Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, okay? Who's he? He's the one who shot Lori Daybell's husband, Charles Vallow, back in Arizona. We have gotten our hands on his police interview after he shot and killed Lori's brother. Lori's now been charged with that murder in Arizona. But Alex Cox is dead because he died on the toilet in Arizona. But that's another story, another convoluted fact we're not going to get into right now. But let's listen to Alex Cox explain why he shot Lori's husband, Charles.
So I stayed there last night, and then this morning Charles showed up. And I don't know what started it.
And Charles is your brother-in-law. He and Lori are married.
Yes.
Okay.
So he showed up. He was following her and yelling. And then I got between them. And then Tylee came out with her bat. And I had separated them for a minute, and then my sister had walked around me there in the living room. And then Charles was following Lori and yelling, and Tylee told him to get back. She took her bat like that and shoved him, and he took the bat away. And I said, "What are you doing?" And I got between them, and then he hit me, and I just went down, and when I got up, he was still yelling. And so I went into the bedroom where I was staying and grabbed my gun. I came back.
Okay.
And told him to put the gun down, or the bat down. And he came at me and was saying, what are you going to do? Like that, and coming to me with the bat. I said, put it down. He wouldn't. He came at me, so.
So you're saying right there, he's right here.
He's there.
And you said, what happened when you came out with the gun?
I said, put that bat down. He's like, what are you going to do? It's like, you're going to threaten me? I was like, no, I'm just going to defend myself, so you put that bat down. And he goes, what are you going to do like that? And he came at me.
Okay.
And he'd already hit me in the head.
Okay, so he came at you at the bat. What
Yeah.
was he doing with the bat when he came at you?
It was in his right hand like this.
Okay, so he's holding it low and he's coming at
Yeah.
you? Okay. So you gave him, how many times would you say you told him to, like, put the bat down?
Once?
Once? Okay. And then he started advancing towards you?
Yes.
How many shots did you fire?
I don't know. A couple.
Okay. Were Tylee and your sister?
I didn't see him, so I don't know where
Okay.
they were.
Where's JJ at during all this?
He's already out in the car.
Okay, so he's sitting out in the
Yeah,
car.
I think.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a murder case in Arizona. That's not happening yet, but you've got this case that's now been moved to Boise, Idaho. Should the jury hear the whole story, right? When we talk about convoluted facts, Brian Weiss, should this jury hear the whole story? Why Lori became single, why she was able to marry Chad, how Charles Vallow found out about Lori and Chad before he died, and then he suddenly dies at the hands of her brother. I mean, should the jury hear the whole story? Not just, okay, what happened to the kids and what happened to Tammy, but should they hear what happened to Charles as well?
You know, Vin, assuming that contextual evidence is relevant and not unduly prejudicial, I think they should. I mean, I'm a big believer in the underlying narrative. What is this case all about? And because this case didn't occur overnight, because none of these events occurred in a vacuum, it's difficult, even for me, watching court TV and with my degree in cosmetology, to follow the players in the narrative in this case, unless and until the jury hears the big picture, unless they see the motion picture and not just a couple of still frames. They're not going to be able to make the tough call about who walks out of that courtroom, if they walk out of that courtroom at all.
Brian Watkins, do you think this comes in the Boise case? What happened in Arizona, the shooting death of Charles Vallow? Because it seems like Charles found out about the affair. He was about to tell Tammy about the affair, and suddenly he ends up dead at the hands of Lori's brother.
You know, it's a tough call for the judge because, yes, it should come in. The question's going to be how much of it comes in. You got to limit it. You can't have a whole bunch of trials. We're not going to try that case that would happen in Arizona along with this trial. So how deep are we going to go? And that's where it gets tricky for a judge. It's like, well, I got to let him hear some of it, but I can't let him hear all of it. And if I let him hear that, well, then the other side's going to want him to hear that. And then the other side's going to say, well, I need to rebut that. And say, well, then I got to bring in that. And next thing you know, you got another trial going on. So that's what gets tough for the judge. They need to hear about it because it didn't happen in a vacuum. They need to hear the context. Limiting the context is going to be the difficult part.
All right, Bernard, as a homicide prosecutor, how streamlined do you want the trial in Boise? Or do you want them to see the whole picture? Because from my perspective, this is about the whole picture. If you don't get the whole picture, none of it really makes sense.
So I agree, Vinny, but what I see happening here is that we're going to see like another Robert Thirst type trial where you have all these other homicides you're going to be hearing about because it puts the current homicide in context. However, I see it not likely that a judge is going to allow so much information because it's just too prejudicial. I don't know how it's going to come out, but I will say this, as a prosecutor, I will want, of course, more dirt coming in because it dirties up the defendants and it's more likely that they will be convicted for the charges that they're facing now.
Let's take a listen to more of Alex Cox here. Again, Lori's brother describing what he did after he shot Lori's husband, Charles.
What happened right after that?
Right after that, I went to the kitchen and rinsed my hands off because I had blood on the back of my head. And then I went back into the room and put the gun down and grabbed my phone. And then went back into the kitchen and called 911.
Okay.
And then they walked me through. I tried to do CPR.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that I need to know or that's important to this?
That's all there is.
Okay.
All right, we saw the blood on the back of his head there. We got a good shot of it. Brian Watkins, does that look like someone who got struck with a bat by someone who played college baseball?
It does and it doesn't, you know. I mean, clearly it looks like something happened. He got struck. Does that mean that the guy was trying to kill him? Probably not. You know, the question is he had the bat down at his side at the time that he was challenging him and he was being told to put the bat down. Question is, you know, was he in immediate fear of suffering a bodily injury or death? Probably, or was this a revenge for being hit with the bat? It's a tough one.
Bernardo, does it sound like self-defense if he was able to, after allegedly getting struck by the bat, and then walk into his room and retrieve his gun and get it?
No, I mean, to me, it doesn't sound like self-defense. I think there's some doubt as to whether it's self-defense, because if you are able to walk away and get away from the alleged aggressor, then you're not in fear of immediate death. However, they're both still inside of the home. He can argue, of course, he can come up with whatever facts that he wants, because guess what? He's not here to be able to defend himself and say what actually happened. That's a problem when you're dealing with a self-defense case, is that the person that can rebut what happened is a person that is dead.
Well, in this case, they're both dead. Alex Cox passed away when he was in the bathroom. So he won't be testifying, but Lori is charged in that case. Brian Weiss, I'll give you the final word on all of this. So as we sit here, you've got Lori Daybell still not competent to stand trial. Chad Daybell, his trial's moved to Boise. She'll be moved if she's found competent. How do you think this thing plays out? Do you think she regains competency, or do you think it's going to be the doomsday prophet on trial by himself in Boise?
I think the doomsday prophet could be the only one in the defense chair. Look, there's a pretty good possibility that unless they pump Lori full of a bunch of medication to help her regain her competency, she may never, in fact, regain her competency. And with every passing day, it seems as if that becomes less likely. And if you've got somebody sitting next to you in that courtroom the jury will hate more than you, then you've got a fighting chance. But if it's just you facing the bar of justice, I think that that's probably going to be a slow plea guilty, guys.
All right. Our think tank staying with us. When we come back, the latest in the search for Brian Laundrie. One question people have had is, how did he go missing to begin with, right? Well, from the beginning of this case, there was like an air of suspicion surrounding Brian Laundrie. There weren't charges. Finally, we've got an explanation from the Northport Police. We'll take a look at that and also take a look at the attorney representing the Laundrie family. Don't go away.